All right, you will need to have out a piece of notebook paper, and you will need to go ahead and get your notes titled and dated like normal. So we are going to be talking about identifying types of angles and their characteristics. So some of this should be a review for you, but some of it might be some brand new information. So hopefully you recall some of this vocabulary. All right, so the first type of angle that we're going to talk about is an acute angle. An acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So, for example, this angle would be an acute angle because it is smaller than a 90-degree angle. So an acute angle is any angle that has a degree measurement less than 90. Exactly opposite of that is an obtuse angle. An obtuse angle has an angle greater than 90 degrees. So it might look something like this, where it's bigger than that 90-degree angle measurement that we saw back when we did Pythagorean theorem, okay? So an obtuse angle has an angle that's greater than 90, and an acute angle is less than 90. You should be able to look at different angles and be able to quickly state whether it's an acute angle or an obtuse angle simply by looking at it. All right, and then of course we have a right angle, and that has an angle measurement exactly 90 degrees. And remember, from Pythagorean theorem, we represent a 90-degree angle measurement with that little box in the corner. That tells us that it's a right angle and that it is exactly a 90-degree angle measurement. All right, one that you might not be real familiar with is a straight angle. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a straight line, okay? Any straight line has an angle measurement of 180 degrees. So we always use, so you saw with an acute angle, I use that half moon looking symbol. That tells us that we're measuring the angle. So if I use that here and I said, what's that angle measurement? You would tell me it's 180 degrees because it's on a perfectly straight line. All right, we got one more. Remember, you can pause it and go back and rewatch, or pause it so that you can write down all the information. The last one is vertical angles. Vertical angles are always exactly opposite each other. Okay, so angle A here and angle B here, those would be considered vertical angles because they are opposite one another. And they always have the same angle measurement. So if I said that angle B right here was 60 degrees, and I said, what is angle A? You should be able to tell me that it is also 60 degrees because these are vertical angles. They are across from each other. Same thing if I said angle C and angle D, you would know that these are vertical angles because they're opposite each other. So that if I told you that C was 120 degrees, you should be able to tell me that D is also 120 degrees because they're opposite of each other. They are vertical angles and have the same angle measurement. So you're going to have to be able to look at a set of angles and tell whether it is vertical or supplementary or complementary, which we're going to get to right now. Hopefully those are familiar terms. Complementary angles are angles so if I said angle A and angle B, they are complementary angles if they add up to 90 degrees. So notice that there's a 90-degree box right here, and then there's angle A and angle B. So angle A and angle B are complementary because together they equal that angle box of 90 degrees. So if I said angle B is 67 degrees, since A and B together, A plus B, will equal 90, we should be able to solve for angle A. So if I subtracted the angle that I do know from 90 degrees, I'll get the angle that I don't know, which would be 23 degrees. So angle A is 23 degrees. I'm going to get you one more vocab term, and then I'm going to throw a bunch of problems at you. The last one is called supplementary angles. And supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180 degrees. So if I gave you this problem, notice that A and B, they sit on this straight line. So here's a straight line, and angle A sits on it, and so does angle B. Okay? Because they sit on a straight line, remember, straight angles equal 180 degrees. So if I took A plus B, they would total 180 degrees. For example, if I said that angle A is 110 degrees, you could plug that in for A and solve for angle B. So angle B would be 70 degrees. So within this small section, you're going to have to identify whether they're vertical, complementary, or supplementary, but you're also going to have to be able to tell what angle measurement they have. So let's do a couple in your notes so that you get familiar with these. So you might have a problem that looks like this. Okay, examples. So the first thing they're going to ask you to do is name the type of angle, okay? Right away, you should notice that this has a 90-degree angle. So this would be a complementary. And yes, you have to write that all out. This would be a complementary angle because C and D together are going to equal 90 degrees. So then they're going to take that one step further and they're going to tell you one of the angles. So angle C is 22 degrees. So you need to set up the math problem. So if you take 22 plus angle D, that should equal the 90-degree angle by adding those together. So guys, these are just very, very tiny one-step problems. There's going to be actually a lot of solving equations in this unit, so you have to get used to solving equations again. So angle D would be 68 degrees. And you could check your math real quick. Just pick up your calculator and type in 22 plus 68, and it should equal 90. All right, let's look at another one. All right, so again, we have to name the type. All right, so again, I always draw right along where I see the letters to see if they possibly sit on the same line, okay? Now, they don't sit on this line together, okay, because they have to be on the same side. Notice they're not on the same side. But they do sit on this green line together. So that would be a supplementary angle. And then if I told you that angle A was 35 degrees, since we know that supplementary angles equal 180, we can take 35 plus B and set it equal to 180. I subtract the 35, and we get B equals 145 degrees. And that makes sense because this is an obtuse angle, which means it has to be greater than 90 degrees. And it is. All right, I have one more quick one. All right, so the first thing that I look for is, do they sit on the same line on the same side? And they don't, because C and E are not on the same side of that green line. So then I look to see if they might be opposite of each other. And I like to draw arrows. And these are. So this would be a vertical angle. Remember, those have the same measurement. So if this is 125, so would this one. All right, be sure to let me know if you have any questions.